All right, guys. So I decided to make this video because it was driving me nuts, and I spent weeks and weeks researching on this thing, and finally was able to get some answers on some things and figure some things out. So without further ado, I've got a 82, and it's a Sasquatch 340 made by Commuter Industries out of Cascade, Iowa. Okay, so Commuter obviously went out of business a long time ago, and I don't know if you guys had heard or not, but in the late, or I think I'd actually take that back. I think it was in the beginning of the 90s or late 80s, early 90s, they had a fire at their warehouse, and a good majority of their inventory and stock was actually burned and basically mutilated. So they don't have any spare parts out there. And of course, if you're like me, you've been trying to look all over the internet to find parts and pieces for these things, and you've searched eBay high and low, and you've been reading forums and everything else. Well, I'll tell you a little bit from what I've figured out with these things. So these Kawasaki engines are basically bulletproof. If you have one that runs, it will run for a very long time. Very seldom do they have issues or problems from what I've heard or from what I've seen. The actual Sasquatch, which is what this model is the 340, they actually do have a twist throttle, and that is factory. They don't have your actual thumb, or your thumb throttle like a lot of your new modern 3-wheelers and 4-wheelers. So I heard a lot of guys say, oh, twist throttle, I don't think that's factory. No, it is factory, and I have a manual that actually shows it that it is factory. So and then obviously it has your handbrake as well. Also, this specific model was an option on some of them. It has reverse. Some of them did not have reverse, so that is kind of a nice feature. And in order to engage that and disengage that, for those of you that are new to this, so if you look down inside here on that rear transmission, there is a link lever right here. Push it up, and that goes into reverse. Push it all the way down, that's forward. If it's in the middle, that is neutral. So just a little heads up anyways. The tires that are on this thing are actually 25 by 12 by 9 in the rear, and the front is a 22 by 11 by 8. So pay no attention to the tires. I just sprayed the rims because they were god ugly and they were just horrible looking. They were really rusty, and I just threw some cheap aluminum paint on them. I have new tires coming for them, but I figured, well, you know what? If I have new tires coming, I'm not too worried about getting a little bit of paint on the tire itself. So probably actually paint the rims up a little bit better once I pull the tires off, but it was kind of a quick throw together thing. So this one I actually went through and did a few other things. The seat was bad on it. The seat fastens down through the fiberglass body on the underneath side, and there's a piece of wood underneath of there, plywood, like 1/2 inch. That was rotten out, so I had to replace that, so I got that done. Another thing I did too was I upgraded to an LED light here in the front instead of the old round. Actually, here I have the original light. Let me walk over here and get it. So this is the original light that came on the 4-wheeler, or 3-wheeler, excuse me, or trike, or I don't know, a lot of you guys have different names for them. I guess I still call it a 3-wheeler, with a single wire, which is your hot wire, and then it grounds to a chassis ground. So the battery that I have in it is an Autocraft, and it's a U1R-2, 340 cold cranking amps and 425 cranking amps. So that battery does a great job. Another thing is the starters. You can still get the starters and the solenoids for these things on eBay. If you look on your engine, there's that number right there, KF82, okay? So if you go on eBay and you look up KF82 starter and solenoid, they sell it together as a whole, so you can still get this as a piece.